Hi Year 6, Mrs. Greene here with your final French YouTube lesson. Thank you everyone who has been engaging in these lessons every week and for sending in all the work. It has been wonderful to see how well you have coped and how you have managed your home learning. Okay, so moving on. This week we're going to be looking at a learning objective that is one of our Year 6 objectives. To write for a particular audience, select language that shows awareness of the reader. Something that will stand you in great stead for being a writer in secondary school. But before we do that, we're just going to go on and check something that we learned last week. Okay, so throughout your time in Year 6, we have been looking at using a range of punctuation, and we've also been revising punctuation that you learned lower down the school. I have again, as I normally do, taken an extract from our class text wonder, but I have taken out some of the punctuation. So I'm going to read it without the punctuation, and I want you to see if you could put in the missing punctuation, thinking about the full range that we've been learning. So, Ms. Petosa smiled at everyone, though I felt like she was smiling at me the most. It wasn't a shiny smile like Mrs. Garcia's smile, but a normal smile. She looked like Mon Mothma from Star Wars Episode 4. Haircut kind of like a boy's. Miss Petosa told us a little bit about herself and then ended by asking if anyone had questions, and Julian raised his hand. Yes, she said, looking at the list to remember his name, Julian. So just reading that, I can tell that there's plenty of missing punctuation because I couldn't pause. So pause the video now and have a go at putting in the missing punctuation, then we will share our answers at the end. Okay, so let's talk it through. Ms. Petosa smiled at everyone, and you can see there is a dash after everyone that is adding on extra information to complete the thought. Though I felt like she was smiling at me the most. Then we've used a semicolon which can link independent clauses. It's not as sudden as a full stop, but you do pause a little bit. It wasn't a shiny smile like Miss Garcia's smile. Mrs. Garcia's smile, we've used an apostrophe for possession because the smile belongs to Mrs. Garcia. Then we've got a comma in front of but, because this is a compound sentence now. We are joining together with a coordinated conjunction, but a normal smile, full stop. She, capital letter, beginning of a sentence, she looked like Mon Mothma from Star Wars Episode 4. Then we've used a colon to explain why she looked like Mon Mothma. Haircut kind of like a boy's, full stop. Miss Petosa told us a little bit about herself and then ended by asking if anyone had any questions, and Julian raised his hand, full stop. Now we've used inverted commas now because this is where there is some dialogue. Yes. Now the interesting thing is that ellipses have been used. Now we commonly in primary school use ellipses to show the the cliffhanger moment, but ellipses in speech can also be used to show a pause. So the person talking is suddenly stopping and thinking. So yes, she said, looking at the list to remember his name, and that helps us understand why, full stop, and then Julian again, inverted commas, to show dialogue. So, well done. Right, let's move on. Okay, moving on to another SPAG starter and a way to check what we've been learning previously. So as well as looking at different punctuation over the past few months, we've also been focusing in on using cohesive devices. So cohesive devices can be adverbs, conjunctions, varying your pronouns, using paragraphs and also punctuation. But we're focusing in on conjunctions this time. So in this passage from Wonder, again our class text, I have used some conjunction, but they are not appropriate, they don't fit, they don't work. I want to see if you could put in some that do. Wanda tells the story of August, a 10-year-old boy who lives in New York. August is an ordinary boy in many ways, however he rides a bike and likes playing with his Xbox. Moreover, Augie was born with deformities of the face and looks very different from other kids. Augie's had 27 operations on his face, but has spent a lot of time in hospital. Similarly, his mother has taught him at home. Also, now that he's 10, she thinks he should go to school. At first, Augie hates the idea of school and doesn't want to go, though. So many kids, Augie is really anxious on the first day, as many children stare at him. Overall, nobody wants to sit next to him, and he notices other kids talking about him behind their hands. Furthermore, towards the end, a frightening and dramatic event at a school camp changes things completely. So pause the video now and have a go at changing those conjunctions in red to conjunctions that fit the sentence better, that are more appropriate and make sense. Okay, let's talk through some possible answers. Wanda tells the story of August, a 10-year-old boy who lives in New York. August is an ordinary boy in many ways, and then we should have gone for some causal conjunctions, as, because, or for, because these help explain why he is ordinary. What's the consequence of him being ordinary? Well, it's that he rides a bike and likes playing with his Xbox. Then we need a contrasting conjunction, such as however or but, to show why he is different, to show a change of thought. Augie was born with deformities of the face and looks very different from other kids. Augie's had 27 operations on his face and has spent a lot of time in hospital. So it's a result of, so because he has had lots of operations, he's been in hospital a lot. So causal conjunctions, not just because, we have and as a result and therefore. Again, another result of him being in hospital a lot is that he didn't go to school and his mother taught him at home. So rather than using because, again, or as a result, we would use consequently, another causal conjunction. Again, we're going to show contrast with a contrasting conjunction because she doesn't want to teach him at home anymore. So we've got however or but now that he's 10, she thinks he should go to school. At first, Augie hates the idea of school and doesn't want to go there. Then moving on, we've used the word like. So like is a comparative conjunction showing where things are similar. So like many children, like many kids, Augie is really anxious on the first day as many children stare at him. And we know that many children experience that. Then we've got two different types of conjunctions that we could use. We could use in addition as an adding conjunction, or we could use similarly as a comparative conjunction. Nobody wants to sit next to him and he notices other kids talking about him behind their hands. Then to conclude, we could use a summarising conjunction like in conclusion or in summary or all in all or overall. But we could also show the contrast again between the children not wanting to speak to him, staring at him, and the fact that it actually changes at the end. So although it's really bad and something frightening and dramatic happens at a school camp, it does change. It changes things completely at the end. Okay, so let's look more closely at this week's learning objective, to write for a particular audience and select language that shows awareness of the reader. Okay, this is a really key objective, not just for Year 6, not just for high school, but for being a writer in general, for being an effective writer. So what's the big picture? What's the purpose? Well, considering the audience and purpose of a piece of writing is vital for making the right decision on the tone, language and structure. If you don't know who you are writing to or why you are writing, how can you choose the right language to use? How can you choose how you're going to organise and structure your writing? And how can you choose how formal you are going to be? So those are two things that you have to think about before you even begin the writing process. Okay, then that takes us to our key vocabulary for the lesson. So audience, who is it written for? Who are you writing to? Purpose, why are you writing and what do you want to achieve? The tone refers to your level of formality and point of view. Sometimes our writing can be really chatty and informal, and sometimes it can be really formal, and sometimes our point of view is really clear for reading. You can tell someone's opinion. The language refers to your choice of words. You might use really chatty language, you might use slang, you might use abbreviations, or you might use formal language. Text features, okay, that refers to what you expect to see from that genre. For example, if you were writing a report on something, you would expect to see subheadings, maybe even bullet points. You would expect to be written in the third person, for example. Okay, so moving on, our turn. So I'm going to read out some different texts and I want you to think about the audience. Who would the audience be? And what would the purpose be of the writing? So who it was written for and what was the aim of the writing? So pause the video now and have a go. Okay, So let's have a look, starting with the anti-smoking leaflet. So of course, this would be written for people that smoke, so the audience would be smokers. The purpose, the aim would be to advise these people to stop smoking. So it would also be informing them of the facts, possibly the negative consequences, I would have thought. An advert for a Nokia mobile phone in Cosmo Girl magazine would be aimed at teenage girls who are buying the magazine, and the purpose would be to persuade them to buy a mobile phone, to buy a Nokia mobile phone. Okay, the letter to the council to protest against sports centre closure would, of course, I would imagine, be going to politicians or councillors, and it would be to persuade them to stop any plans for the closing the sports centre. The school newsletter is generally aimed at parents, it might be sometimes students, and it would be to inform, sometimes to entertain with some interesting facts or awards going out to children. A fire exit sign would be going to the public, and it would be to instruct. Okay, so your task today is to write a letter to your next teacher. Now this may be somebody that you've already met, or it might be somebody that you don't know. So your next Year 7 tutor. But before you begin writing, we have to consider our audience, we have to consider our purpose, because this helps us work out what language, what structure, what tone is needed. Okay, but have a think first of all at this. Discuss the tap, the text, the audience, the purpose. So we're going to be writing a letter. Because we are writing to a teacher, our audience, I would imagine that our writing is going to be relatively formal. Not as formal as if we were writing to a bank manager, but it's going to be moderately formal. Okay, the purpose. Well, I would have thought we would want to inform that teacher a little bit about ourselves. We want to give some information. We might want to entertain them. We might want to describe ourselves. We might want to explain a little bit about how we're feeling, about current situations or about the future. But I think we generally want to give some information about ourselves. So let's check out a Wobble, a bad example. So this Ben has written a letter to his next teacher. See what you think about this. Hi you. I'm writing to you as my teacher is making me, so I'm going to tell you about me. I have been back at school since the 1st of June in a bubble. I have been going to France since I was 3. I'm a bit nervous to be leaving, but I have lots of cousins at Wolverley, so I'll be okay. They have told me it's really strict and there'll be lots of detentions after school. I'm not really bothered about that. I've had a few detentions here. I enjoy PE the most and really hate writing. I don't see why you have to write when we have laptops now. For the last few years we've been doing Spanish. I don't see the point of that either. Will be forced to do a language at high school. My teacher would probably say I'm chatty and that I distract others. She treats me unfairly. In conclusion, see you in a bit, Ben. So straight away we can see lots that is wrong with this. First of all, he's writing to his teacher. So he should have been writing more formally. He should have been more friendly. He should have been more polite. And the purpose would be to describe himself and to give information on himself, but surely you would want to give more positive information about yourself if this is going to be your next teacher. As well as that, you can see that there are spelling mistakes. Now, one important part of the writing process is the editing stage at the end. Anything that you write, you should always allow time to check and edit and redraft. Particularly if you are writing to your next teacher when you are trying to impress them. So this is what a bad one looks like. We don't want to do an example like this. So let's have a look at what a good one looks like, and then we will have a discussion, or you can have a chat with the person at home. I'm writing to you as due to the current situation we have been unable to meet. I wanted to introduce myself but also tell you a little bit about myself, which I feel will help smooth the transition process further. I'm currently at French Primary in my last week at primary school, and we have been thinking a lot about what high school holds for us. Although I'm a little nervous about starting secondary school, I'm also excited. I feel ready for this next chapter in my life. I look forward to mixing with different students and making new friends. As well as that, I'm eager to study subjects such as science in greater depth and conduct experiments in an actual science lab. In addition, I've heard that you have many animals and a ski slope, things that certainly made me decide on coming to Wobble. Since a young child, I have been an enthusiastic learner, particularly when it comes to science and history. This year we have learnt about World War I, which was shocking to say the least, knowing the hardships that many soldiers experienced. In science we have learnt about evolution, an interesting topic and definitely one that contradicts the Adam and Eve story. I am a good student. My best subject is writing, which has certainly helped me across the curriculum. I am able to use a range of high-level punctuation now. Moreover, I like to engage in a range of sports. In school I run for the school's cross-country team, and out of school I attend Stourport Athletics Club, where the 100-metre hurdles is my forte. Some may describe me as chatty, which I am. However, I am able to remain focused in class. I would simply say that I am friendly, polite and confident. In conclusion, I know that the last few months have been a challenge for us all, but September cannot come soon enough for me and would be keen to take on any responsibilities. I look forward to meeting you and all the other staff at Wobble. I hope you enjoy your summer holidays too. Best wishes, Amy Greene. So as you can see, a much better example. That is what a good one looks like. I'm just going to go through now and highlight some of the things that we like about it. So we have a range of high-level punctuation. We have punctuation parenthesis, we have dashes, we have colons, we have semicolons, and we have commas to mark clauses, because I can see plenty of different sentence structures as well. We have a much more polite and friendly and formal opening and closing to the letter, and the whole tone of the letter is very positive and is very polite. The letter is not completely formal, as we do have some contracted words, we do have some use of apostrophes, but generally not. The person writing this has also followed the letter form out. They have set their writing out in the correct structure that you would expect. So if the audience is to the Year 7 teacher, you can tell they've chosen exactly the right tone. The purpose of the letter we talked about is to explain a little bit about yourself and is to inform, so give information on yourself, and that is definitely what this person has done. So we talked about the first two things before we even start writing, before we even start the writing process. Consider the audience and the purpose. Okay, once you've done that, then the next thing, which is just as important, is the planning stage. For every piece of writing, doesn't matter what genre, you need to plan, you need to jot down your ideas. So we're quickly going to have a go at jotting down ideas. So if you want to pause the video now and just jot down some ideas about yourself too, it might be worth following this structure to help you. So write your address, or the French Community Primary School address, the address of your next school, whether it be Wolverley or Baxter or Bewdley, the greeting, how are you going to open the letter? Are you going to say dear? Your paragraph 1, your introduction, why are you writing and who are you? Paragraph 2, what are you looking forward to in September? What do you like about Wolverley or Baxter or Bewdley? Or what are you worried about? Paragraph 3, what do you enjoy in school? What do you enjoy doing out of school? And how would you describe yourself in 3 words? And paragraph 4, your conclusion, your final comments. What thought do you want to leave them with, or what message do you want to leave them with, and how are you going to end your letter? Okay, so let's take some example notes now. So, the greeting, I'm going to say to whom it may concern, because you might not know about the name of the form tutor yet. I'm going to say who's writing, and the reason why you're writing is to introduce yourself to your new teacher. You're looking forward to meeting new children and being treated more grown up and learning Italian at secondary school. In primary school you enjoy forest school, library time because you love reading, your best subject is maths. You play for the netball team in and out of school, and in 3 words you describe yourself as sporty, hardworking and friendly. In your conclusion, you are looking forward to joining that secondary school and meeting that teacher, and you're going to end with a formal greeting, closing, yours faithfully, because you weren't sure of the teacher's name. Okay, I'm going to have a go at modelling now, using these 4 paragraphs as my structure and referring back to my notes of what I'm going to put in each paragraph, but thinking very carefully about the audience and the purpose of my writing. Okay, so using my notes, We talked about the first paragraph was going to say who I am and that I was writing to introduce myself. So I'm going to start with, to my new Year 7 tutor, my name is Jane. Rakewell, and I am writing to formally introduce myself. I'm going to give a little bit of information. During our final week at primary, I have been thinking about the next chapter. Let's put a dash there, secondary school. Okay, I'm going to put a colon to explain what I've been thinking about, how I will fit in, cope, how I will fit in, cope, and what my strengths will be. I am a little anxious, but mainly excited. I hope this letter gives you a brief understanding of me. Okay, so starting with my second paragraph now. So this is going to talk about what I'm looking forward to at secondary school. So, since Year 5, I have been wondering about high school. Some made it sound daunting and strict. Others, semicolon to join another clause, others like a fun place to be where we are treated more grown up. Okay. In addition to that, so I've got another cohesive device. In addition to that, I am looking forward to studying a language in more detail. I'm going to add some extra information. Spanish and French was fun. Okay, my third paragraph, this is going to say about what I enjoyed at primary school. So at primary school, I have enjoyed forest school. I'm going to give some more information again. I love being outdoors. As well as that, every Thursday we had library time, which I love. I am an avid reader. Moreover, maths is my best subject, so I would be happy to help others. So everything that I'm writing, I'm trying to extend it a little bit more to give more detail. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. I just wanted you to get the general gist. So while I've been writing, I've been following the structure. I've been following how we planned the letter to be. So my first paragraph is going to introduce myself and say why I'm writing. The second paragraph is going to talk about what I'm looking forward to at secondary school. My third paragraph is going to talk about what I enjoyed in primary school. My fourth paragraph is going to conclude and basically say that you're looking forward to going. You might even ask some questions, and then you're going to end. Throughout, I've been trying to keep my language moderately formal. I've been trying to be polite, and I've been trying to paint myself in a positive way. So, it's now your turn. So let's have a look what your chili challenges are. Okay, so your task. You are writing a letter to your next teacher, thinking carefully about the purpose and audience. So the reason why we're doing this is because thinking about the audience and purpose is really, really important when it comes to any writing. But also the purpose of this is to think about what you would like your next teacher to know about you. And sometimes when we write about our strengths, we didn't even know them ourselves. And it might be that we can set ourselves mini targets after writing this letter. So, Chili 1, to use a polite tone and moderately formal language style. After you've read it, just check, is it polite? Are you going to be offensive, or are you going to offend anyone if they read it? Chili 2, to use Chili 1, but also language that will present you in a positive light. So you're not going to, in your content, talk about anything that is not particularly favourable about you. And Chili 3 is to do Chili 1 and 2, but think about your Year 6 punctuation and your cohesive devices, which we have been doing over the next few weeks. By the time you finish your writing, we should be able to see some examples of semicolons or different sorts of conjunctions or adverbs. If you get your letter done, please do send them in. Just because it is the last week doesn't mean that we won't read your letters. And I'm sure reading them we will already know about all your strengths and what you're looking forward to and what you've enjoyed at primary school.